The book of Joshua presents the Israelites poised to enter the Promised Land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Their journey, led by Joshua after Moses' death, brings them to the formidable city of Jericho. This city, with its imposing walls, represents a significant obstacle for the Israelites. It is here that the stage is set for a dramatic confrontation, a clash between the Israelites' faith in their God and the seemingly insurmountable defenses of Jericho. The narrative hinges on the belief that God had promised this land to the Israelites. This promise, passed down through generations, fueled their determination to conquer Jericho. For them, Jericho was not just a city to be conquered. It was a symbolic gateway to the fulfillment of a divine covenant. The Israelites, carrying the weight of generations past and the hope of generations to come, prepared for battle. However, the conquest of Jericho wasn't a conventional battle. The Israelites, following divine instructions, employed an unusual tactic, a siege involving trumpets and a procession around the city. For 7 days, they marched silently around Jericho, their faith in God's promise a shield against the fear that surely gnawed at their hearts. On the 7th day, with the blast of trumpets and a mighty shout, the walls of Jericho crumbled, paving the way for the Israelites' victory. The fall of Jericho is described in vivid detail, emphasizing the totality of the destruction. According to the biblical account, the Israelites, upon entering the city, were commanded by God to show no mercy. Every man, woman, and child was put to the sword, and the city itself was razed to the ground. Even the livestock were not spared in this sweeping act of annihilation. The reason for this utter destruction is given as a divine imperative. Jericho and its inhabitants were to be devoted to God as Harem. The concept of Harem is central to understanding the events at Jericho. It refers to something set apart for God, often involving complete destruction as a way of purging impurity or idolatry. In the case of Jericho, the entire city and its people were considered anathema, a threat to the Israelites' purity and their covenant with God. The destruction, therefore, was not seen as a mere act of conquest, but as a religious duty, a sacred act of obedience to a divine command. The utter annihilation of Jericho serves as a chilling reminder of the power of belief. The Israelites, driven by their faith and their understanding of God's will, carried out an act of unimaginable violence. This act, though difficult to comprehend from a modern perspective, was for them a testament to their devotion and a necessary step in fulfilling their destiny as God's chosen people. The command to destroy Jericho and its inhabitants raises profound moral questions. How can a God who is often portrayed as loving and merciful also order such wholesale slaughter? This apparent contradiction has troubled theologians and ethicists for centuries, leading to a variety of interpretations and attempts to reconcile the text with a more palatable understanding of God. Some argue that the destruction of Jericho should be understood in its historical context. The Canaanites, of whom the people of Jericho were a part, were believed to be steeped in idolatry and wickedness. Their elimination from this perspective was seen as necessary to prevent the Israelites from being corrupted. Others interpret the story allegorically, seeing it as a symbolic representation of the struggle between good and evil, with Jericho representing the forces opposed to God that must be overcome. However, these interpretations do little to alleviate the moral discomfort that the story evokes. The image of innocent children put to the sword in the name of God is a disturbing one, regardless of the historical or theological justifications offered. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality that religious beliefs, even those rooted in faith and devotion, can be used to justify acts of unimaginable cruelty. Section 4. Echoes of Jericho religious violence throughout history. The story of Jericho, unfortunately, is not an isolated incident. History is replete with examples of religious violence where belief in a divine mandate has been used to justify acts of aggression, oppression, and genocide. From the Crusades to the European Wars of Religion, from the Spanish Inquisition to the Rwandan genocide, the blood-stained pages of history bear witness to the dangers of unchecked religious zeal. The problem lies not in religion itself, but in its potential for manipulation and distortion. When religious beliefs are coupled with political power, economic interests, or ethnic prejudices, the results can be catastrophic. The story of Jericho, in this context, serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the need for critical reflection on religious teachings and the importance of tempering faith with compassion and a respect for human dignity. The echoes of Jericho resonate even today, in a world still grappling with religious extremism and violence. From suicide bombings to religious persecution, the misuse of religious beliefs continues to inflict suffering on countless individuals. It is a sobering reminder that the lessons embedded in the story of Jericho remain painfully relevant in the 21st century. Section 5. Wrestling with the Text. Understanding Divine Justice. The story of Jericho challenges us to confront our own understanding of divine justice. How do we reconcile the image of a loving God with the brutal reality of the conquest of Jericho? Is it possible to read this story in a way that honors both the text and our own moral sensibilities? These are questions that have no easy answers and continue to be debated by theologians and scholars. One approach is to acknowledge the problematic nature of the text, while also recognizing the cultural and historical context in which it was written. The concept of total warfare, while abhorrent to modern sensibilities, was not uncommon in the ancient world. The Israelites operating within this worldview may have believed that they were simply following the norms of the time. However, this does not excuse the brutality of their actions, but rather invites us to engage in a deeper reflection on the evolution of ethical understanding over time. Another approach is to focus on the broader message of the story, which may be about the importance of obedience to God, the dangers of idolatry, or the fulfillment of divine promises. By emphasizing these themes, some argue that we can move beyond the literal interpretation of the text and extract its spiritual significance. However, this approach risks downplaying the very real violence that was inflicted upon the people of Jericho. Section 6. The Unanswered Questions. Jericho and the Moral Compass. The story of Jericho, despite its brevity, continues to haunt us with its moral complexities. It serves as a reminder that the Bible, while revered by many as a source of spiritual guidance, is also a product of its time, replete with stories and teachings that may challenge our modern sensibilities. It is up to each individual to wrestle with these difficult texts, to engage in honest and open dialogue, and to seek understanding without sacrificing our own moral compass. The story of Jericho does not offer easy answers. It does not provide a blueprint for ethical decision-making or a justification for violence in the name of religion. Rather, it stands as a stark reminder of the human capacity for both great faith and great cruelty, and the enduring tension between the divine and the human. As we grapple with the legacy of Jericho, we are left with more questions than answers. Questions that force us to confront the complexities of faith, violence, and the elusive nature of divine justice.